Hey everyone, welcome back to Code with Aisha. Today we are diving into something that confuses a lot of beginners, Flexbox. Flexbox is one of the most powerful layout tools in CSS. You align and arrange elements easily, whether you are centering a text, building a responsive layout, or creating a modern UI design. So in this video, I will show you how each flex property works, how to use them together, and where they are most useful in real-world web design.
Alright, before we jump into Flexbox, here is the simple setup I'm using. Just a container div with 4 child boxes inside. Each box has a class of box 1 to box 4. Nothing fancy here, just a plain HTML. So right now, you can see our boxes are just stacked vertically. That is because by default, this is how block elements behave. Each one takes up the full weight and the next one just drop below it. Pretty normal. Now let's change that. I'm going to add display flex to the container. And boom, instantly everything lines up horizontally. That's the power of Flexbox. It switches from the default block layout to a row layout with just one line of code. Before we move on, it's really important to understand how Flexbox alignment actually works. Flexbox uses two main axes, the main axis and the cross axis. The main axis runs horizontally when your flex direction is set to row, and cross axis runs vertically. So when we use justify content, we are aligning things along the main axis from the left to right, and when we use align items, we are aligning along the cross axis from the top to bottom. Once you understand these two axes, everything about Flexbox starts to make a lot more sense. Around with justify content. This controls how things are spaced horizontally across the main axis. Let's get that started. Justify content. Let's start with flex start. Okay, so everything is stick to the left. I'm going to change this to center. Nice. Everything moved to the middle. And then flex N. Now we have everything to the right. Now let's try something a little different. Space between. This one pushes the first item all the way to the left and then the last item all the way to the right. Then it evenly spread out the remaining space between all the items. So you notice there is no extra space on the outer edge. Only between the boxes we have the spaces. So this is perfect for layouts like navigation bars where you want items stretched across the full width. Now let's switch to space around. Space around. Alright. This one gives every box a little bit of space on both sides. Almost like each one has its own bubble. But there is something to notice. The space at the edges looks smaller than the spaces between the boxes. That is because the boxes on the end only have space on one side, while the ones in the middle, they have both. They have space on both sides. If you look closely, the outer gaps are half the size of the middle ones. Let's check out one more justify content property, space evenly. This one is probably the easiest to visualize. With space evenly, every single gap, including the ones at the edge, is exactly the same size. So the space between the boxes and then the space between the left and right edges are all evenly distributed. Now let's talk about align items. This one controls how things line up vertically inside the container. I already gave our container a little bit of height just so it's easier to see what's happening. So first we start with flex start. Now you might notice that when I said align items, flex start, nothing really changes. And that's totally normal. That's because by default, Flexbox already align everything at the top. So even though we are applying flex start, it is actually the same as the default behavior. But once we switch to center or flex end, that is when you will start to see the differences. The boxes will move in the middle or they will drop all the way to the bottom. Okay, let's give center. Everything move right into the middle. Flex end. Everything drop way down to the bottom. Flex direction. This controls the directions your flex items are laid out. Now, before we look into that, I'm just going to comment out align items. That way we can focus on what flex direction does by itself. Right now, the boxes are sitting side by side. That is because the default direction is row, which means everything flows horizontally. If I switch it to column, watch what happens. The boxes now stack vertically, one on top of the other. And when I switch that back to row, they will return horizontal layout. So basically, flex direction controls your main axis. Row means left to right and column means top to bottom. You will use column a lot, things like forms, sidebars, or stack section, anywhere you want content flowing vertically instead of side by side. Alright, next up, let's talk about flex wrap. Right now, all our boxes are trying to stay on one line, even if the container isn't wide enough. So if I shrink this container, see how everything start getting squeezed. That is because by default, Flexbox uses no wrap, meaning all items stay on a single line no matter what. But if I switch that to flex wrap, so if I switch that to flex wrap, the boxes that doesn't fit automatically move down to the next line. So let's see. One box down, two box down. Much better, right? This is super handy when you are building responsive layout like image galleries, card grid, or product list. Finally, let's look at my favorite Flexbox combo. Centering items both horizontally and vertically, something that used to take a ton of code, now takes just a few lines of code. We will use Justify Content Center, Align Item Center, Flex Direction to Row. And just like that, everything is perfectly centered in the middle of the container. You can see the boxes sitting right in the center, equal space all around. It is so clean and balanced. You'll use this setup all the time for things like hero section, loader, pop-ups, or any layout where you want content dead centered. If you ever forget the combination, just remember Justify Content controls horizontal alignment and Align Items control vertical alignment. Alright, now that we have seen how properties like Justify Contents and Align Items work, let's put them to use in a real project, a simple navigation bar and a hero section. We will start with a basic layout pose, and then I will show you how Flexbox makes it look cleaner, more balanced, and completely responsive. Navbar structure, just a logo on the left and some navigation links. So right now, without Flexbox, everything stacks vertically because block elements naturally take up the full width. Let's take a look in the browser. Yep, that doesn't look pretty. Okay, let's fix that with Flexbox. I will start by adding display flex to the dot navigation class. And just like that, the logo and the navigation links now sit side by side. Now I will add justify content space between. That spread them out so the logo stays on the left and the links move to the right. Next, I will add align item center. That keeps everything perfectly centered vertically, even if the nav bar increases in height. Also apply Flexbox to the navigation links. So inside the URL, I will add display flex. That put all the links in one row. Then I will add a gap of about 20 pixels to evenly space them out. Gap 20 pixels. Now the navbar looks balanced, clean, and totally flexible. Now let's move on to the hero section. We have got some text on the left and image on the right, but right now, without Flexbox, they just stack one on top of the other. So let's fix that. I will add display flex to the .hero container. And there it is. The text and the image now sit side by side. Next, I will add justify content to create space between them. And then I will align item center. This keeps them aligned perfectly in the middle. Now the layout feels balanced, super simple and professional looking. And here is the best part. Flexbox is responsive by nature. With just a quick media query, I can tweak the layout to the column to the smaller size. So I will add that. I've already got that here. This is the media query I added. So we can resize the screen and then the image will stack again. This is a smaller size. Now we can go back to the desktop view. It's like that. And that's how Flexbox fits into real world layout. In just a few lines, we align the logo, the navigation links, hero text, and images, all clean and fully responsive. Once you start using Flexbox like this, layout design becomes so much easier and honestly, a lot more fun. If this helped you, please don't forget to like, save, and share for more tutorials.